Hello, everybody. So we are going to start session. So again, all the attendees for their patient listening. You have been an excellent audience. In this session, I'm going to cover some of the tips for Odoo implementation, which I have experienced over various projects in the past. Most of these issues or problems that I'm going to discuss or the challenges you might have yourself experienced in your projects. And to make it more interactive, if you feel that you have an experience related to similar challenge or you have dealt in a different way, then feel free to jump in and discuss the same. Okay. So we'll try to keep this session more interactive than others and discuss the challenges. This will be useful and helpful to all the attendees out. Okay. Let's one. Do not start the development before the requirements sign off. Needless to say, we all understand what we mean here, why the development should not start before requirements sign off. Practically, what happens is that I believe my audio was disconnected. I guess I'm connected again. So I was discussing that most of the cases where the business analysis happen, as we towards the end of the business analysis, we encounter the fact that a lot of scenarios have changed, especially the requirements have doubled up or increased to the extent the scope which was agreed initially in a fixed spread project is no more relevant, and the implementation methodology is also required to be changed. Plus, the owner of the business or the client project manager puts certain new conditions in place for us, based on which we are required to make the deliverables in a different deadlines as agreed before. And hence, in this scenario, what is going to happen that a lot of work, developmental work that we have done in the past might require rework. Or in case, even if rework is not required, you might have to take a completely different direction because the priorities of development and deliverables have changed. If you recall this pyramid that we had discussed in the first session, you can see that these business analysis goals can change from different levels, top to bottom. And this change generates from the top level management, who require us to change the path that we had earlier taken. At this point of time, you will also see conflicts arising for any additional work which the client will not acknowledge. As an example, in one of my projects based in Canada, was related to website and e-commerce. Scope was agreed for in the initial stages, and as part of the design process, we had agreed showing them some kind of screens as a prototype for acceptance purpose. This was part of an agreement. However, by the time this is finished, we now initially we agreed, okay, we will other sessions and then take up the scope of work at a later stage. At client has refused to none of these requirements are either documented or signed off by the client, but the client continuously is claiming requirements have been changed. Now, after a long discussion, we agreed to make the changes, but due to these changes, a lot of work that was done earlier had to be discarded. So while I could have useful in either some other project or could be have put in better use in this project itself, will never result in a better understanding. Strongly suggested that in spite of any pressure or effort, without taking a sign off, do not go ahead with any kind of development. The second tip is related identifying the key priority areas. Now, I had mentioned this in one of the earlier sessions, how a client's priority of implementation focuses on only certain areas of his business, which he feel is a very important aspect of ERP implementation. Without explaining, first let me explain the case. So we have a client for manufacturing industry based in India. So the client's focus is based on sales as well as the inventory management system. Now, whatever scope was discussed or feature was discussed during the time of analysis, during the time of user acceptance and training, the client's complete focus was only on these three aspects. Now, for the client, it was assumption that all other features are going to work the same way it is working right now. So he was not worried because it was not impacting their business metrics. However, the important aspect, which are his pain areas, are also relieving him of the original intent or the vision for the ERP implementation. Ultimately, the the definition of success will only come when the client acknowledges the fact that yes, whatever work we had done has reaped benefits for him or he has got a return of investment. This acknowledgement is the biggest success metric for any ERP implementation. But this success metric is only underlying the fact that his pain areas have to be identified and focus and priority has to be given, which does not mean that it has to have more development, it has to have more training session. The point to make here is that you should ensure that even if certain features are compromised either due to budget or efforts, his specific pain areas are relieved, because without relieving him of those headaches, he will not be satisfied. The business owner will never be able to acknowledge your efforts. At this point of time, if you have any questions, any challenge that you have encountered in a similar manner, or you have solved this solution or managed in a different way, please feel free to share. You can unmute yourself and feel free to share with us. Okay. Let's move ahead. Do not customize the solution unless absolutely required. Now, this is a very qualitative and subjective call, and a different consultant might have similar opinion, but in similar scenario can take a completely different route altogether. So it will be difficult to make a judgment on each and every aspect or any requirement.
Joshua, if you
How it
have any question, you can ask. Pratik, Joshua is having question. How do you manage with Agile when implementing Odoo? Joshua, you are unmuted. You can ask.
Yeah, so that's a good presentation there. Really appreciate that. Uh, I tried presenting a solution in my company because there was an already existing ERP Microsoft Dynamics, and then I wanted to bring Odoo in to implement. And one of the hitches I found was in the course of the implementation, I tried to reason with the stakeholders, and this was a subsidiary company. So I tried to reason with the stakeholders that um, we could deploy it based on what their requirement is. So just like you were saying from before, um, if the client does not find value in the things that you are giving them, it becomes really difficult to measure even your success, whether you've been successful or not. So my question was to try to see if you have tried deploying or implementing Odoo based on the agile principles, such that you do it bit by bit and incrementally over a period where the client gets value at each point. In my case, one of the biggest hitches I found, even though all of the users were one with the solution I was trying to bring, one of the problems that hit me hard was because of the interference of politics. And so the product, the whole implementation got undermined. And so there was a different one that was brought in, which is not an ERP. It's basically focusing on the core operational aspect of the business, but not necessarily the end-to-end, which covers every department. So now we're back to square one, where we have to do integration of the system with the payment system, with the HR system. So a lot of writing of integration to connect each of these. So I just wanted to find out if you are doing it, say you are deploying with your experience, how would you do it such that at each stage there is value that you present to the client, even to the extent that it can override this problem of politics.
okay. So Joshua, thanks for your question. It's a very valid and relevant question, especially in your circumstances. Let me explain you with one of the examples from my experience. Now, one of my projects, which was based in healthcare, based in India, the complete implementation was based on the agile approach. This company was working on a very new age business model and was extremely unsure of their requirements. So while their base requirements of core modules like accounting and HR were fairly constant, but their process of selling, purchasing, managing the inventory, marketing were completely dynamic in nature. And as a company policy, they were changing their requirements every month. Now, this was clearly communicated to us by the IT head at the start of the project, because they had a very bad experience in an or with an earlier vendor who was not able to have an upkeep with their continuous changes. So even before one feature was deployed, new feature came in. So what we identified is to first of all understand what is the direction of customization they are doing. So once we did a brief analysis of 5 days, we identified that their focus of change is based completely on the behavior of customer and how they are able to capture more and more people on their platform. And hence, most of their changes were completely dependent on customer. Also, the changes that they were demanding were at least 15 to 20 days of development. Okay, and these changes were happening in every 30 days or 45 days. So we suggested that instead of doing a big bang implementation and changes, what we are going to do is going to do a 15-day sprint. Okay, so at the start of the month, 2 days before, we used to discuss with the stakeholders all possible requirements which can be completed in 10 days. Okay, and we kept a 3-day margin for testing, acceptance, and minor changes. Any requirement that can be completed in 10 days, we used to take up that, discuss that, agree on the requirement, and finalize that. At the start of the sprint till 15 days, no changes were made in this project. Now, please understand that for this 15 days, the users are now expecting a return or a value out of the requirements they had given us 15 days. So the value cycle was of 15 days. So for a customer, he was of the belief that my vendor is delivering me value every 15 days. That became a very wonderful proposition for the client. The next challenge was then to apply the best project management practices, do quality coding, testing, and then give them the results within 15 days. After 1 or 2 sprints, when the client found it really successful, he was really happy, and he also increased our team size for the development to start working on other departments for which the implementation cycle or the value cycle was comparatively long. In Crux, what I'm trying to say here is you have to find the nerves of where the value cycle lies, where the value lies for the client. Now, as a consultant, you have to make an understanding of that. If the client is facing issues related to management of stocks, why not tell him that if you have 5 problems which will take, let's say, 2 months to solve, let me give you value in 10 days and implement this in 10 days. Start using it and you will slowly get returns of your investment. You will start making a saving. And also, please ensure that whatever value that you promise him on paper, you are also able to measure them. For example, if you say that I'm helping you manage the inventory, you are probably avoiding a loss of so many amounts. You will have to design the system in a manner where you are able to show him what is the return of investment. So as a consultant, it becomes your expertise and your role to ensure to generate the value for the client and make him believe and convinced that yes, the value is being generated. Once you are able to do that, you can take the project in the direction, and the vendor would be the client would be able to win your respect, and also able to follow any kind of guideline or advice that you would give. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
I really picked it up. Thank you very much.
So let me take one or two more tips before we take one more question. So the third aspect that I was discussing was customizing the system. So as I was mentioning, that this can vary from a consultant to consultant. Many consultants with similar experience as mine might agree on the same logic, but on a similar requirement can recommend customization for which I may not. So this can be a qualitative and generic call, and rather than saying right or wrong, I would say it is more of a generic understanding. But this understanding has to be taken with a proper context that every customization effort that you are likely to make You have to make equivalent efforts for testing. You have to make equivalent efforts for user acceptance, training, support, and so on. So a development effort is not just a development effort, it multiplies the efforts. Odoo, whatever the features they have developed, have been tested by multiple users across the globe. There is a huge community who constantly provides input to improve the system, and a lot of testing efforts have been added so that the modules work absolutely fine. And hence, my strong suggestion is that unless and until you have absolutely sure that customization of solution or customization of a particular module is absolutely required, you should try and manage with the configuration that is available in Odoo. By having said that, I know it is possible that some of those requirements cannot be met without customization, and I have uh, done customization in all of my projects. But whenever I have to do customization, I think not once but twice and but thrice. Every time I have to make changes, I think again and again how I can avoid this customization and let the you convince the user or fulfill his business requirement without modifying the system. Also, please understand that many times certain customizations, while the customers might feel is a necessary thing, but it is mostly a nice to have feature. Also, if you have constraints of budget, if you have constraints of time, if you have constraints of resources, then also you need to consider whether customization is required or not. Some of you have asked me questions. If the project size is small, the client is small, in that scenarios, such cases will arise whether the customization genuinely needed or not. If it's a one step process, do you really need an approval process? No, you do not. Do you really need a lot of validations? No, you do not. It is unnecessary adding cost to your development, and it is not giving you any major benefits. Implementation methodology is a base rule you should not break. Implementation methodology. We have discussed in length about the implementation methodology and the strategy. We are aware that implementation methodology has a long effect in all the hierarchical levels of the pyramid. So our pyramid primarily talks about the higher management aspirations, the goals or the vision or the expectations of the mid level and the junior level requirements as well. Any change in methodology has a huge impact on the project. We Many people undermine or underestimate the impact, but I have experienced huge changes at the baseline documentation or even the baseline's budget calculations after the changes in methodology. And methodology changes are not only happening once. I've experienced that the client's expectations changes and he expects a lot of iterative changes in chosen methodology. We should have a process in place to ensure that, and conviction as well, that methodology of the project management or the implementation of ERP does not change with time. This change has a huge impact, and if it is affecting our budget, timeline, deliverables, needless to say, it has a huge impact on us as a consultant and vendor as well. Okay, as a client, any impact on the vendor will come back and hit us all the ways as well. Most importantly, all the vision, all the planning that you have done to launch application or business process automation at a certain point of time is going to be impacted. It may be a good idea to spend additional time after business analysis to choose the right methodology, assessing the value of pros and cons of different strategies in terms of budget, schedule, resource availability, but not advisable to change the methodology at any point of time. At this point of time, next tip is to use Odoo's generic feature for user adoption. So, so if you recall my Odoo functional overview session, I was discussing some base features of Odoo, which are quite impressive in nature. For example, the social networking feature.
Pratik, sorry for interruption. I think your screen is stuck. Can you please reshare your screen?
Okay, sorry for that. I think it is visible now.
Yeah, this is perfect.
So I was mentioning that some of the features are quite attractive, like on-the-fly reporting, social networking, ability to do filtering and groups and generate reports, ability to create dashboards. Now, these are some of the aspects of the system which will actually be enabler and will count long towards your success rate. Now, let's understand that whenever you build a feature or cover a particular business process aspect, the client is already expecting you to do that. So he does not make a fuss about you being able to achieve that. What creates the difference is the additional improvements or rather user friendliness that you offer as part of the package that attracts the client. And when I talk about client, I'm primarily talking about the end users, people who might be resistant to change, people who may not be interested to adopt to new solutions, people who might be sitting uninterested in a training meeting. Once they see that, okay, this feature is good, we did not have this in our previous projects or previous softwares, and this is a good way to work. I can simply create report myself. I do not have to ask my junior or my manager for the reports. And in this way, they are closely able to relate and easily attracted towards using the system. I've also seen a lot of users becoming champions for such features like ability to create dashboards. One of my clients based in Kenya, many of the users are have very extremely limited roles in the system. For example, there is a person who is at the reception whose role is to only record the people who are coming in within the company. Now the role is very simple, but whenever she has asked, when did this person arrive, let's say in the company, now instead of looking at the register and finding out each and every day, she can simply type the name of the person or the name of the person he or she came to meet and simply find out the information. Now, this was a so small a feature, not even a primary requirement, but it helped the user so much that during our success discussions and group discussions, that particular user came out and said a lot of nice things about the software. Now, this has a very positive impact on other users who are using the system when they hear that this system is very good and beneficial to us. Even of those features which are cumbersome to them, they get used to it because of some of the nice things that they are encountering. Now, the judgment on what features which are small but has a huge impact again can have a qualitative aspect to it. From my perspective, what I have experienced is on the fly reporting, ability to create your own dashboards, ability to have multiple languages, change time zones per user, ability to set your own signatures, ability to have a different automated email alerts for different events, ability to see audit logs within the object itself, ability to interact with different users of the system on the fly are some of the good features of the ERP, which may not be directly business process related, but has a huge impact in adoption for the users. At this point of time, I would be happy to take a question if you have experienced anything similar to the tip that I have shared. Anybody who has any questions, feel free to ask me. You can unmute yourself and feel free to ask. So I will proceed. If at any point of time you would like to raise a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask me the same. We will now move towards the next tip that I have to share, which is design of the training material based on the roles instead of the process. Now, this is one of my learnings in the different ERP systems that I have implemented across industries, across countries, and across different cultural background. So this can also be again a qualitative judgment to some levels, but I firmly believe that if we are able to do this, it goes a long way in a successful implementation and adoption. So to make my point clear, I'm going to start with an example. So we have a client based in India who is again in construction industries. So the user has a long process, and within that long process, they have multiple people who play their roles. An example of this process is a tendering process. Tendering process is one process which involves almost the whole company together. So right from the sales and business development people who are involved in interacting with the clients or fetching the tenders from the internet, then is involved other stakeholders or other departments in project execution like purchase, storekeeper, operations, legal team, finance team, HR team, who are involved in providing costing for different aspects of the project. Also, at the end of the estimation and post tendering process, we also have cases where the output have to be given to these stakeholders, and inputs have to be taken from these stakeholders back again. Even after, if you win the tender, then you again have to give them the output or the result of the tender. What happened here was that it was such a long process from start to finish, and almost 15 types of users were involved in managing this process from start to finish, right from scanning of tender to winning the project and booking in the system. We had 15 different stakeholders who were interacting with each other. Now, there were some people who were available in multiple steps. Some users had roles to play only in few steps, and some people were monitoring activities at all levels. Now it became a really difficult situation where, while explaining the process to different stakeholders, they were not able to relate to it, and during training and acceptance process were constantly confused at what was their original role within the system. So while there was a case of change management where they were finding it difficult to adopt to new system or new way of working, they were also facing the issue of not being able to understand the process as a whole. What we did was to make certain modifications in the training methodology and the material, and we broke down our training material based on user specific roles. So what we did was, let's say X type of user had to play a role after the 70% process has to be completed. So we did not bother to tell him what happened before your process started or before your role comes into play. You only receive the input, do your process, and generate the output. So we cut down the training material in such a manner where a user only had to knew what he is supposed to function within the system. Of course, this was done at a very junior level who had limited role to play and were not taking qualitative decisions in the system. These are the people who were admins or doing admin related job, executive related jobs. Now this helped us touch a large base of users within the system, which effectively means more than 70 to 80% of our users had very limited role to play. So while their training went smooth, and for them it became very easy a proposition that okay, we have to do only, let's say, 2 things within the system. So he did not bother about learning 8 things, which even though it impacts, but he does not bother at all. Now this can be applied to other areas as well. For example, if you are talking about the managerial level, then at the managerial level, even though he has to understand the process, during the training session, you can generate a material where he know what are the actions that I need to take place. So the user's psychology has to be understood, what kind of actions he takes place. So in spite of understanding the whole process, he only seems to be interested in his activities. If we take this into account, we will be able to attract or make the user connect to the system on a very higher level. Otherwise, I have experienced that there is a very lukewarm response, and there is a long gestation period, adoption period that comes into picture after the go live stage is gone. Okay. I have a question here. Anybody who would like to ask a question, feel free to do that. So I have a question that I can attend. So This question talks about the training materials. So the question, so let me answer this question. So I am being asked about how different training materials can be populated and generated for same stakeholders. So what I'm trying or meaning to say here is that, for example, you generated a training material, let's say a user manual for a mid-level manager, where you explain what are the processes for which he is responsible. But during the training, you also cater to the finer points of his process or his activities that he needs to undertake. So let's say I want to understand 10 things, but in reality, 3 tasks are more important than the 7 other tasks. So 90% of the times I will do the 3 tasks, and 10% of the times I'm going to do 7 tasks. So always stress on those 3 tasks the more, and highlight them separately, focus on them separately while you are doing the training. Okay. I have a question. Would you say that preparing a material for the process is not needed at all? Not really. I did not mention that training material creation is not required. What I mean to say is to how to energize or clarify your focus for training material. Traditionally, when you generate a training manual, you define a training manual for a particular department or a process, but you have to generate, extract or identify the major roles for a particular process or a particular user group, and then give him training accordingly. If I am an employee whose major role is to do purchase, and as far as my role is considered, according to business analysis, that maybe I am supposed to create products, maybe I'm supposed to create vendors, maybe I'm supposed to maybe create POs, maybe I'm supposed to generate vendor bills from PO, then my focus area is only this. If I'm not bothered about vendor evaluation, then I need not take care of it at all. So my training material or training would be designed in such a manner where I will completely show him that his world revolves around only those 4 processes. For him, that is his world, and he would be focusing there itself. If I show him 5 additional things, he will first of all try to mingle with them, and secondly, he is likely to make mistakes by going into those windows without realizing that it may not be useful for him. Okay, this ensures that your focus is narrow, and as long as your focus is limited and narrow, you will always have better results in terms of concentration, attention, and ability to grasp. And the end result, you will see more percentage of adaptability and even faster adoption. Okay. Any more questions before we move forward? So let me take up the next point now. Data validation before go live. If you recall one of our discussions where we were discussing how data migration and validation is important, one of my points is to validate the data before go live. Now this looks like a very simple point, and we understand that we will always do that, but in reality we don't. Most of the implementations delay, especially happens because of data not being validated properly before go live. So let's say data migration process has been taken care, and you also went for data validation by the client. But in reality, data validation is a good effort in itself. While you may have done a wonderful job, the client is supposed to check and validate the data. One of examples that I can take from packaging industry client based in India. So the client has around 1600 products. So initially the client was not sure whether to create all these products separately, or he would like to create them as variants. Based on the questions we had discussed, we advised him that you can create variants, but the there will be following issues if you do not fill or provide the complete data. So before generating the order or making any stock related move, you will need to fulfill these requirements. So for many of these items, the variants or attributes were not defined in the system. Now they were asked to do the validation, for which they had said that the data seems to be okay. So since we as a vendor, we are not in position to accurately determine whether all the data is correct, we completely depend, or rather to a large extent depend on the vendor to be able to tell us that all data is correct. At the end of the day, they are supposed to use it and they need to verify that. However, the client users did not bother or did not make a lot of efforts in validating the data. So within 2 or 3 days, it was realized that most of the product's configuration is faulty and it does not exactly match with their requirements. So all the variants they had created was created in a wrong manner, either due to misunderstanding or either due to casualness, without which we were supposedly asked to first of all remove all the entries which were done by users, including sales, purchase, and other stock entry. Then we were asked to remove all the data of products from the system. Then we had trained them again on how variants should be created. They changed the data of 1600 products once again and finally provided us the data. Now, this change or efforts required or effected a delay of over 1 month for the whole process to complete. And in this case, please note, there was no bug, there was no dearth of training, but the data going wrong and which affected their complete business. The sales, purchase, inventory, accounting, no major process could take place. The only thing they could do was HR, and the major pain area was still eluded them. So again, if you see here, it has a huge impact at all levels. So while the executive team or the supervisory team expected to provide data validation, an ignorance from the top level or not understanding from the top level can also result in the delays. And hence, strong expectation that you get the data validated before data entry. If you have strong reservations about the data, then you raise it before the go live process to inform the client that much of your data is not correct and you are not likely to make a lot of progress because of data inefficiency. In one of the other cases, in Saudi Arabia, they provided us the data for customers, but they did not give enough information from email or even their VAT numbers. Now, what happened when we started generating invoices for the customer? We did not have email address to send it to the customer. We did not have their VAT details. So all the efforts that we did were stuck because neither we could send the invoice to the customer neither we could send email because of the inefficient or un, un, incomplete data in the system. So again, it took an effort of 7 to 10 days before the complete data was brought in, and finally we could go live and make the invoices go. At this point of time, if you have question, please feel free to ask. If any of you would like to share any such experience like Joshua did, feel free to do that. It will be informative for all the audience in this session. I am very sure many of you have tremendous experience in your fields and would have something really great to share with us all. In the meantime, let me move on to the next tip, which is training and the stress on training for each and every acceptance or successful implementation of the problem. Ultimately, having done all the processes in the right manner, following the best practices of implementation, code management, scope creep, development, testing, acceptance, the final hurdle is generally the acceptance from the users and adoption. Now, users are fuzzy, can vary, the culture varies from country to country, and you may not have a very positive response, especially when you go live. It's not that the software is a success from day one itself. Okay. Now, while you give the initial training, what practically happens?
Pratik, we have one question from Joshua.
Okay. So Joshua is asking,
Can you
why
please
would you
unmute?
put?
Joshua, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question so that everybody can gain the knowledge?
Okay, all right. So why I was asking that question was that I'm thinking that you will need to do data validation with the client before you even go, because from my experience, if that doesn't happen, then sometimes the definitions that will go into the configuration will also be affected. So, for example, if a client does payment before delivery and you don't validate that as far as their accounting system goes, and then you get the system running, then later on you may have to have the trouble of going back to change all of those things, just like you were saying. So I was thinking that this tip would have come much earlier, so that the ones who taking care of the implementation will be aware, or will take it as that's one of the first things to do before you even go on to do anything. Because I've had instances where something was done. This was an inventory portion, of course, not the full-blown one, but just the inventory side. And there was a problem because the understanding of inventory, which Odoo does using the typical accounting thought process, which is double entry, was different from what the people who wanted to use the inventory their consideration of it was. So even during the time of assessing the data that they have, even to prepare it and then use it to deploy, it became a little bit of an issue because the understanding of how double entry is was different, because they are not accounting people, so they did not understand how that thing works until we went through that whole process of helping to see how double entry happens, even with inventory, such that you'll be able to make account of what has left the warehouse, what has come in, what has gone to which shelf, what has moved from this place to that place. So in my consideration, I think it should be one of the first things to even touch on before you even go into deploying, which you may have to touch some configurations.
So Joshua, I agree to your point that this is definitely something that needs to be taken care earlier. The reason for putting this tip in this session was to focus on certain things which are meant to be understood, taken care, but as an experience, in my own personal experience actually, many times the data which looks correct or complete at our end, in many cases and many scenarios, it is still left incomplete because it may not affect your configuration, it may not block your process. Let me take an example. For example, there is a case where you have generated multiple types of price lists, okay, and you have uh, different price lists for different customers. You also have a number of products. Not all products are being sold for all customers. Now, as a vendor, as a ERP consultant, you will not understand or you will not be able to validate which price list contains what is the contractual understanding with the customer, what is the unique price list that is offered to him, and what is the other terms and conditions that might have he have agreed even before this ERP system discussion came into place. So what happens is, even though they have given you the price list, you will not know which products have been agreed for and which have not been configured. So there is no error per se, but inefficient configuration. Okay. In many cases, when they are doing it themselves, then it can be they will be responsible. But on day one, the people who are doing configuration and the people who are generating orders can be completely different. Many companies, the people who manage the price list is one or two people, but the sales people are 100 in nature. Now, this is something for which even from a naked eye, I cannot find out that this configuration is incomplete or incorrect. And hence, you need to have a special focus on data validation while doing any kind of implementation. And that's why I thought it important to be brought up once again. Okay.
All right, I think I got your point now. It's well understood. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. So I was explaining that while we have identified the training methodology and the plan and the material and the training material, we have also focused our efforts on the right areas or aspects to cover. However, in spite of all your best efforts, there are things which can still go wrong. One of them being that your training was either ineffective, or maybe you were using, even if you gave the best training, since you were not imparting training to all the users, and the trainer that you trained may not have imparted the correct training, quite possible. So it is very likelihood that the system has generated a lot of garbage entry. This happens in many of the projects. In some cases, the numbers are huge. In some cases, the numbers are small. Some cases, the numbers are limited to specific users or departments only. So this is a regular issue that you are going to face. In the first month, especially, you will realize for the first 5 to 10 to 15 days, users are going to make a lot of mistakes in the system. How we are going to ensure that they do no mistakes? You can't solve it, but you can ensure that they do minimum possible mistakes, and you guide them at each and every step so that they learn effectively. Not only you will have to correct the data that will go in the first month. This first month is an assumption on a generalized basis. Not necessarily it has to do with only 30 days. It can go on for multiple months also. It can be an issue that can occur only, let's say, for the first 10 days. So this is a very generalized number that I have taken. You will also have to ensure that the handholding effort that you conduct is is for a significant period and is also effective. So for example, in one of our projects, uh, as per the agreement with the client, what we are supposed to do is, by end of the day, one of my support executives is supposed to pull out a report and find out how many leads, orders, activities, phone calls have been conducted by their sales team members, generate a report and send it to the manager. Now, in the initial days, when this report was not being pulled out, users were not using the system and data was inefficient. So either some data was going, some data was not being managed in the system. But as they started using the system more, they suddenly started having more problems. So unless and until you use the system more, you will not face any issue. As soon as you start using the system, you will suddenly realize you do not know X feature, you do not know X process, and then your interaction with the help desk or handholding team becomes significant. And at that point of time, giving them right guidance, giving them proper support becomes imperative, which ensures that they easily become comfortable to the system. Also, it is strongly recommended, as per any better good business practice, to record and document any kind of training that you impart, any kind of support that you give, so that in future you are able to keep a track of what kind of support was handled, what, and use important metrics out of it to calculate the success and your help desk related efforts. This has been particularly useful for me in the projects in which most of the training has been done by the trainers appointed by the client, where we have specifically trained only few users and who were responsible for training other users. Okay, so we have found this issue to be most prevalent here, where the users have not taken serious training or have not been available through the training session for the whole time. Okay, we have also found issues where the training material, even though have been clearly distributed by us, but never reached the end user for a significant period of time. So while we were continuously claiming that that user is not performing or not using the system, we came to know that neither he was invited for training, he was neither given any training, and he was also not handed over the training material. So such lapses are likely to appear or occur as a help desk or as a support team, or as for the success of the implementation. You need to ensure that these problems are going to come and advise the client on taking the necessary steps for it. Anybody would like to put up a question or share their experience regarding help desk, or I can see raised hand. So Joshua, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Joshua, you would like to ask something?
I was going to ask that which would you prefer in the course of training? Would you say that a CBT kind of a training will have a lot of impact as opposed to just like maybe just running through some things? I'm saying this because I work in a government sector, and most times there's a lot of talk about okay, training, but then people go for the things and then they come back and there isn't much impact. It's like it's just like a talk show, and so there you ask specific questions about how you can use this thing to a particular extent. They are not able to do that. Even internally when we deploying our ERP, it was similar case. So I'm tempting to think, of course, there's a need for um, passing on of the knowledge, the thought of okay, you can do this, you can do that. But would you choose CBT kind of a training, which will now go into more of the competency of the persons? And if so, how would you think of say a succession plan such that that knowledge and that competency doesn't leave, and then it becomes something that is worthwhile? I ever worked with one guy from Aspect, and they they are into this trading application, and he was actually a user. He was not a developer. He was just a user of the system, but his level of competence was so good to the extent that he got contracted by Aspect to be doing trainings for clients that who have signed on to their application. And I find that to be quite interesting. I don't know how what your advice will be if you would say you want to do something of the sort.
So let me put it this way. As far as CBT is considered, the computer-based training, first of all, to create and design a material for computer-based training will require some significant effort in terms of resources, maybe some additional tools beyond Odoo and third party, and definitely it is requiring cost also. Not every client that you are going to implement will have or would be interested to accommodate such efforts or cost in addition to implementation of ERP. Number one. Number two, companies who are not heavily tech savvy, or employees or users who are currently not using computer much, it is likely to upset the balance. You will not be able to get a lot of positive results, especially when computer has not been your forte or your regular daily use in your business processes that you are handling. And hence my suggestion in those cases at the initial level to go for a person based training only. However, this strategy might be differing in cases where we have a mass market organization. For example, if your business is involved in probably generating stakeholders who are extremely large in number, and you want to train them through some methods in which a personal trainer cannot be involved. Let's say I have an aggregator business and I want to enroll all the XYZ partners on my platform, and on this platform, since you have added to my platform, I cannot do a personal training for each one of you. Then maybe I will generate or devise a course, a e-learning method or a computer based method of learning and being trained for you. So computer based training will come into a picture for platforms where there are huge number of people to be trained, not possible to do a human to human training that much. And because for CBT you also have to see that the people who are being trained are also self motivated to learn. Okay, so you will have to see what kind of platform and what kind of audience that you have. In generic projects, except for one project of mine in probably, I don't know, 40, 45 implementations over the years. There was only one project in which we have created an e-learning tool or used an e-learning tool for implementation. And this was the reason, because this company was engaged in MLM marketing, multi-level marketing. So the e-commerce portal allowed people to register as a marketer, and it was not possible for them to train all. So we created an e-learning portal integrated with Odoo and generated a training course based on that. So this was only one case that we have done over the years, and you can relate closely to the fact that the kind of business model is very different. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a laudable thing. Uh,
Yeah.
I it's quite interesting in dealing with places where in the process, in the whole process, the usage of computer is not that prevalent. So the whole business process will have to be remodeled such that human beings will still be able to do or get some of the processes done outside the system. And I don't know how many times there has been a lot of resistance in my case, for instance, because users will more or less like demonstrate that it's they can't even get the what is in it for them. Is it going to translate into their salaries or and it's quite difficult
Um,
trying to do
let
that.
me let I your explanation reminded me of uh, a similar scenario. You are correct that for every user, his question would be why I am trying to learn a new thing. Maybe I'll lose my job. Okay, so this 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 is a case which is likely to happen in many of the companies, where you see at this point of time the original vision set by the organization head comes into picture. So as a ERP vendor, you might be doing your job perfectly, but when an ERP is implemented, a major effort has to be undertaken by the organization management itself. So not only they have to define a vision document for the whole organization, you also have to encourage each level of users and motivate them that how this particular ERP is going to benefit them. So while as a ERP consultant, you can also add a lot of value, but the major motivation it has to be brought out by the organization itself. If they are not doing it, then maybe you will have to push your client to conduct certain sessions or invite maybe HR or the top management in such training sessions. This is a challenge. I completely accept it, but you see it is a perseverance process. It is a qualitative judgment what will work and what will not work. We cannot always accurately determine if a particular statement is a motivating for a group of individuals or not. Motivation can work in many ways, and the organization has to find its own way how to motivate the employees.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ratik.
Yeah, I'll go to the next point. Hiring the team. So we have constantly discussed the importance of processes throughout the session, right from the first session in the morning. And needless to say, the processes, the correct processes, the practical issues that needs to be taken care, ensure smooth sailing of the project. No project is smooth unless and until you face hiccups and you have a solution for it. It is also a well-known fact that the selection of software and the selection of the right team are the most critical factors for success of ERP. But for any vendor, it's a difficult proposition from so many ERP systems in the market and from so many vendors, uh, which one to select. So since we are discussing Odoo, I can say 10 good things about Odoo and maybe how they are better than other softwares. But instead of that, a lot of other applications can bring some other features which might be an attractive point for the customer as well. So that is a qualitative judgment once again. However, what is important, which I would like to stress on, is the importance that needs to be placed on the team that is going to do the implementation. So at the initial level, when I talk about the team, we are primarily talking about the consultant who is going to give you the advice about choosing the right software, the consultant who is going to do the either the business analysis himself or hire the business analyst for you, the team members who are going to do the actual development, acceptance, training, and support for you. It is important, and I feel it is more important than choosing the right software. Because in any case, there could be three competing softwares which might fulfill the purpose, and it is difficult to corroborate what would happen if you would have chosen the other software. In any case, you can get certain features in almost all softwares if we do not have any constraint for budget, timeline, and even the resources as well. However, selecting the right team is a difficult job and probably the most important one as far as the ERP implementation is concerned. The expert team of consultants brings about vast knowledges of implementation. They bring up industry related experiences. They bring the best practices managed in similar industry in different countries across the globe, and they also bring in nitty-gritties of business which may help enhance the customer's business from step 1 to step 10. Now, how this transformation can take place also depends on the vision of the ERP implementation client, because the changes or implementation could be basics to extremely advanced. The consultation team, if experienced and equipped with the best of knowledge and practices, also gives you a perfect kickoff. They will give you the right advice in spite of the commercials, budget, or scheduling, because the success of the project is more important for them in line with the fact that as a consultant, it's an unsaid code that your advice becomes a Bible for the client. So you need to be able to explain the project in such a way that that the client has to make. Uh,
Pratik, can you repeat? Your voice is lost. Your voice was lost.
okay, so I was mentioning that beyond the external team of consultants or ERP vendor, you also need to hire a cross-functional team of experts on various processes. This cross-functional team are most likely to be employees from your different departments, or maybe your partners, or maybe your colleagues, or your known person from other companies will come into picture and advise and give their suggestions for the best implementation practices. My suggestion to any ERP company would be to, apart from choosing the software, uh, or rather choosing the right software can be a next step, but choosing the right vendor or right consultant would be the first step that you should undertake while going for your visionary ERP implementation. The cross-functional team that comes on board also ensures that all the decisions are balanced in nature. A finance team, uh, a team focused or including only finance people, will always focus on the financial aspects of the business. But a team with experience in marketing can take you a more resolute approach and a balanced decision. Before we move to the last tip for today, I would be happy to take any more questions or any such suggestions or challenges that you have encountered as far as the choosing the right team is considered. Feel free to share your opinion, even if they are not questions. But if you have any valuable inputs to add, please feel free to do that. It will be extremely knowledgeable for us as well as the all the attendees here. Feel free to unmute yourself if anybody would like to share anything.
So, Pratik, just a quick one. It looks like I'm being too much by asking a lot of questions, but I really want to know: would you suggest any kind of a framework within which to say select the right team, cross-functional team? Because in a in a kind of a setting that I work in, cross-functional team is interpreted as after a period. I have there's a case like that right now where after having the so-called cross-functional team, they've become more or less like orphans in their traditional department because they were
Mhm.
handpicked and put in this particular kind of a team. So
Mhm.
in a scenario like that, what framework would you advise to be employed in order to um, create or have this cross-functional team even solidly?
Uh, to be very honest, uh, I would not recommend a very specific framework or a rigid framework which might be best as far as the cross-functional team selection is considered. Your concerns are very valid. You made a very good point that sometimes they become irrelevant even in their own departments because of such scenarios. So the actual selection will happen on a lot of factors, and which will also come into play when you understand your own business uh, is concerned. Generally, what we have done in the past while selecting the cross functional team with our clients, we have generally given this responsibility to the person who is the project manager at the client's end. 99% of the cases, he is the IT head of the organization and has a pretty well understanding of the business as well as the IT aspects of it. They also understand which person is in good position in terms of spirit as well as communication to be able to provide requirements from a business as well as the technology perspective. So a correct framework may be a myth, it may not be the case at all. It is mostly by choice to select the right person who will make a value addition to the team. It is can only be recommended by internal team from the client side, and any person who enjoys a strong authority, or especially the person who has the best interest in terms of ERP implementation, should be the decision maker here. And many times any team that we create or suggest or added is generally approved by the owner, and he generally suggests one or two names himself or herself. So this comes into picture. Adding to the point that sometimes they become irrelevant. Now, making them important again and making them relevant is then the part process of change management that we encounter. So as ERP comes into place, the roles get digressed. There is rewriting of job profiles for many users, and while these things are likely to happen, you will have to manage this change by closely working with the IT managers or the HR managers of the organization. There are some necessary evils of ERP which are going to bring some kind of possible negative perceptions about ERP, but you will have to slowly and steadily win confidence and bring people on board. There is no formula for it works around on lot of interpersonal skills, setting the right structures, keeping things transparent, defining proper roles for everybody, giving them clear vision documents, and that's really sets the tone. Slowly people do come on board. None of these activities have a one day effect. It takes some time to win each every effort. Hand holding, training, user adoption, all these things take time. It's a constant effort, perseverant efforts that you have to make, which translates into success. But setting the right strategy, keeping the transparency, keeping defining the roles in advance, defining proper training materials in advance is something in your hand. If you mess it up, then you are likely to catch up with the problem. So now, if you know what are problems coming in, you prepare for it. If you start working on the problems after they have occurred, then you are like trying to catch up with the situation. So even in that situations you can succeed, but it is going to create more nuisance and more time taking as far as implementation is. And believe me, in spite of all the best efforts, sometimes things do not go according to the plan. And then, as we were talking about change control procedures, you should have in place that whenever we need change control procedures, we use it with a proper methodology and things work out. Okay. So at last, I am going to move towards my final slide for the day, which is the change. I was just discussing the change management. Now, this is the most important aspect and most difficult aspect to manage as far as ERP implementation is considered. In spite of a lot of literature available on guidelines, suggestions, best practices, change management is one of those simple terminology but difficult to manage aspect of the ERP implementation. In spite of even generalizing the process or keeping the process as it is inevitable that change is going to happen in this organization. Now, this change can happen and impact all levels, right from top to bottom. Any change that is going to come into picture has to be in sync with the strategic goals, with the long-term business goals, managerial and supervisory expectations, and the day-to-day processes of the operational staff. Every time any such changes are likely to come, the ERP team or the consultant should be take the responsibility to be able to assess or visualize this change right from the start. Okay. Now, whenever you are able to visualize these changes that are coming up, you are able to manage and prepare a response for these changes in advance. For example, let me take you one of those examples that we have encountered in my project last year. In one of the projects that I executed for manufacturing industry in India, one of the companies had a process of purchase approval at two levels. Okay. So in this scenario, all the procurement that happens is based on the pre-contracted price list, which means every time you have to do procurement, you do not have to take fresh prices from the vendor because all prices have been prefixed. So their contracts are valid for every 3 months or 6 months, depending on the products, and you do not have to check the prices at all. And hence, the purchase executive who generates the order cannot modify the prices. He only selects the project. The taxes are automatic. The second step, since they were doing it on paper, the actual checking was being done, because now in this scenario it was being generated on an Excel file, so manually prices were being fed. So a checker process was introduced, and finally there was an approval from the head of the purchase department. Now, when we introduced the ERP system, we strongly recommended them that there was no need for the process to go through a checker process, which means that the middle person is not doing any value addition to this process, because he can neither modify the price, he can neither change the price, and the person who originally created the PO is also not able to modify the price. That means he is not making any value addition to the project. Okay. Now, when this suggestion was presented to the management instantly agreed to this change. However, due to due to the middle person feeling the need that he might be fired because his role has been reduced in the organization, or his importance has been reduced in the organization, we predicted that he is not likely to be acceptable about the new process. So every time we went for user acceptance testing, he found reasons why there should be a middle level process in place, because there were a lot of mistakes that can happen. At this point of time, instead of refuting his claim, what we did was we suggested that an additional processes where the price list approval was handed over to him as a suggestion. In this scenario, the user did not feel that his authority reduced. Also, he did not fear the risk of losing his job, and also a certain process, significant time, that means 33% of the time was reduced in a process just like that. So every time you change a process, you cut down a person from the authority, he is likely to feel threatened. Every time somebody feels that he has less things to do now, he will realize, or he will feel that I am going to lose my job, or they will replace me eventually with the computer. So there is going to be bound to be resistance. Now, either the company might be okay with that, because to let them go, that could be a company's choice. But if the company does not envision or does not want a hire and fire policy and would like to retain the employee for different activities, then we need to define a process in which that person play active role. What I mean to explain here that these are necessary perils and headaches of any kind of changes that are brought upon by implementation of ERP. And believe me, there will always be, not one, not twice, but maybe 10, 15, 20, depending on the size of the implementation. It is not possible that you will simply implement or replicate exactly the same process. You will always do some improvements. That is always part of the deal and always happens. And hence, you need to create a proper step-by-step policy of recording these change that are occurring, and be available or ready with all possible responses for these change to come. There could be resistance. You need to be prepared for all this. Also, imperative is that since these changes are likely to come, you can pre-implementation knowledge sessions with the users to showcase benefits of these changes that are going to come. Of course, your focus would be to showcase them that instead of cutting down their authority, we are giving them more time to do more productive work instead of simply clicking buttons. Additionally, I mean, it's not that we have being able to do that for each and every project depending on the cases because of the locations and projects being executed remotely as well. But on a regular basis, one of two companies have also been able to organize group sessions where they discuss what kind of challenges they are facing and how they can improve working on the ERP, what could be the additional benefits that they can get. Creation of process champion is one of the things that I strongly advise for each and every project. These are the process champions who are highly motivated by the use of ERP. These are the people who become experts. These are the people who know more about Odoo in probably some of the Odoo consultants because they have been using it on a real life business environment day and day night. Even though their knowledge and process expertise is limited to a particular department only. But these are the people who will always speak positive about the system, and you can always involve them whenever you need some kind of endorsement from any individual whom they will believe. So we have finished the current session. At this point of time, I would be happy to take all possible questions.
Pratik, we have Mr. Pradeep Sharma with us, and Robin Wex is also available now. So let's do. Can we do a small discussion or a debate kind of thing? Like, what are the practical challenges we generally follow? I mean, generally face while implementing ERP. What do you say?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Okay, I am unmuting everybody. Okay, hi Robin, how are you?
Yes, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I am here. Thank you, Gaurav.
In one word, good time. Okay, Pradeep.
Yes,
Pradeep, I cannot see your mic here. Leo. Okay, we can start with the discussion, and the topic is practical
I believe
challenges we generally follow while implementing ERP. Pradeep, you please take the lead. I am trying to coordinate with Pradeep ji.
so. Hi, Robin. Welcome to the session. I would like to know.
hello.
I mean, from your experience, what have been some greatest learning or some examples that you have seen over the years as far as the change management is considered? Any example that you would like to
Okay,
share with
hi
us,
Pradeep ji.
which can
Hi
showcase
Pradeep ji, how
how
are
we
you?
can manage the change management?
Hi Pradeep ji, how are you? Pradeep ji, can you unmute yourself?
Still, I am still okay. Yeah, now. Hi, Gaurav. How are you? I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you. So this is very fortunate. Like we have very experienced panel at this point of time, like Mr. Paul, Mr. Pradeep, and Mrs. Robin Wicks with us. So they are very experienced people. And all attendees, I would like to share their experience with you. So it would be great if it would be a kind of like 10-15 minutes debate, and it would be great if you attendees can ask some questions if you have. So they are the people like having experience more than 25 years and now I think there is no question that they cannot answer. So this is fortunate for you all attendees. You please ask if you have any question in between. So we are going to start with the topic of practical implications and practical challenges while implementing ERP. So let's start with Robin. I think Robin was saying something.
Actually, I was not, Rob. I'd like to just be a resource in terms of understanding what you have already covered. So I'm just reviewing the schedule for a minute or two. If someone can take the panel and begin the discussion, that would be great. I'll hop in.
Okay, Pratik, can you please give a brief about what we had done today, because Pradeep ji was not there and Robin was also not there. Can you please give a brief about like what we had done today in last 8-9 hours?
No problem. No problem. We have covered. We undertook 4 different sessions today. We covered how the process of business analysis and design in pretty much details in the first session in the morning, where we understood what could be the different strategies, practical requirements for collecting business process, ensuring we are expectations of all levels of hierarchy within the business. We also discussed the business analysis questions that would be apt to understand the full range of requirements. And we finally discussed the design process of the business requirements and how it should be documented to cover full range of expectations. In the next session, we have covered implementation strategies and various components of ERP implementation, like setting up governance structure and different teams, choosing the correct methodology or strategy, be it Big Bang or Phase or Agile. We covered best practices or requirements for data migration, user trainings, security, infrastructure, and change control. In the third session, we overtook and went into the details of the software Odoo, where we covered briefly all the major features and how it is an attractive option for most businesses across the globe and different industries. And finally, in this session, we have discussed in brief, and some of the users or attendees also shared the challenges that they have faced while implementing ERPs in their organization, ranging from business analysis to change management to deliver an effective or handling the scope creep from the customer and so on.
Okay, I think Paul should take the lead, because most of the time in the training he was there. So entire seminar was listened by him. So Paul, can you please take the lead so that we can get a good healthy discussion about like what we had done, and I mean, so that we can land up somewhere at a conclusion.
I think I've got the gist of where we're going. I mean, all these topics we've looked at today, the big risk areas are not doing enough analysis, not determining exactly where the return on investment is going to be, what the client expects the return to be, not allowing changes that are not must-haves. If it's a a wish list, that can be parked up for later on. Don't get pushed out of delivering the solution that you've actually identified. More effort needs to go into the analysis, because unless you understand what they're trying to achieve, you're not going to be able to deliver it. That's pretty straightforward. The other processes are going to be just about empowering the teams to have the control with the right checklists in point and not to move out. But again, no customizations unless they're must-haves. Let's show them what the system can do without being tweaked. These are the things that screw up deals. These are the things that delay projects. But never be pushed into going live if the system is not ready. Yeah. And so, but I hope you've all found lots of things in here that some little tips in there. You know, it's been very well delivered, and you know, you all identified bits and parts of this. But you know, all I would take away is plan, 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 and when you think you've planned enough, plan again, because that's where they've been going wrong. And you've seen many systems out there, some of them very expensive, where they've changed suppliers 2 or 3 times during the implementation phase because they're failing on implementation. It isn't always the consultants, the vendors. It's quite often the customer who's trying to drive it in a different route. You have to be strong. You know, the experts know the system. The customer knows the company. You've got to tie the two together. So you've got to have an holistic view over the whole business. But I thank you for the guys for your attendance, and I hope we've given you a little insight into how things can be driven a little bit more efficiently.
Yeah, Pradeep, up to you.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I mean, the words of the song, silence is golden.
I'm saying it is up to Pradeep ji now. Pradeep ji, you there?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Apogen for really arranging this webinar. I could come in and go out a couple of times because there's a lot of parallel things to be done. And since working from home, this is something first time happening and for us. So there's a lot of challenges that we are facing. But nonetheless, I'm really happy, and I'm so happy to see the whole agenda that you have really covered each and every aspect of ERP implementation, right from requirement gathering to go live. A couple of things that I personally feel, having done 2 very large scale implementation of Odoo or Odoo based implementation, I would say. Why I said that, I'll probably clarify in a couple of minutes. With Apogen is that the approach that they have once they get to a problem right from business gathering. Typically what happens is when I, as a business analyst, go to a customer asking for requirements, generally most of the customers tend to only share what I call as the happy path. That means this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. What happens if something in the middle does not happen? What happens if all the 3 parameters are not there? What will happen in those? So that's where the strength of Apogen I have seen come out. They will always ask for those exceptions. It is when you actually probe for those exceptions to the customer, that is when the customer starts to talk and he'll tell you all the exceptions. Most of the software things like ERP really start to fail when we have not looked at what the exceptions in the business process flow will be and how to handle those. So that's where Apogen has a very good strength. In fact, Gaurav and Prateek, they themselves are very thorough in trying to find out the exceptions, which has really helped us in both the large scale implementation that we have done. The last implementation that we are just about to go live in a week from now, it actually will have more than 300,000 end users of Odoo. Now, coming to second point, wherein their approach is, as what they have mentioned in one of the sessions, is that they always try and map the customer's requirement, or they just try and understand what is the underlying requirement. At times what happens is when the customer is conveying, so he is actually saying his wish list and he's not really coming forth with what the underlying objective of that requirement is. But I've seen a number of times that wherein they have walked the extra mile with the customer, trying to understand what does he want to achieve. Once they get a grip on what he's trying to achieve, they immediately try and map it to the core feature functionality of Odoo and try and give him a solution around that, rather than to go in for customization. That helps in many ways. Of course, GTM, that is my go-to market. Time is of course shortened. Cost of customization is reduced for the end customer. And of course, lesser the customization, lesser the problems. So on the requirement gathering, this is what it is. Then most of the time what happens is that we get the requirements from the customer, we create a document, sign it off, and it's the end. We go back to the customer. Okay, man, after 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, 15 days, whatever the time period, depending on the type of project. Sorry about that. My phone keeps ringing all day. So then we go, and that's when it all comes as a surprise to the customer for the first time when he sees the screen. The approach where Apigen actually followed in both these projects for us was that interimly they would actually reach out to the customer, give him a maybe not a full-blown or a full-blown demo, but some kind of a feeler or some kind of a initial screens would be shared with the customer, and some kind of a discussion would be engaged. The customer would be engaged into, so that they don't get the whole package in the end. They start getting feelers and they start getting used to the system. So in the end, when the whole system comes up, half the training is done. The users are already very, or at least they're quite familiar with the screens they're going to see. So that really helps in getting the end users acceptance, specifically on the change management part of things. So if you understand what I'm coming from, the change management, the way, because all the end users are used to do they're used to doing or executing the daily, day in day out activities the way they were doing earlier, before the system came in or before the system replaces the existing one, or they're too used to a system or a manual process. But when something new comes up, there is always a resistance to change. We human beings, all of us have that. So but that helps in managing that change management, and the new system that gets deployed gets far more acceptability and easier and smoother acceptability in the minds of end users. So these are a couple of three very unique points that I have observed in the way Apigen has done it, and of course Odoo being their background. I think that's all from my end. Rest of the things have all been very well covered, so I don't wish to repeat that again.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again,
Robin,
this is,
would you like to add? Yep.
yeah, this is Robin Gurov. I just want to chime in the same sentiments that a lot of what I had prepared to say has been summed up just briefly there. My experience, as you know, the role that I work in is as an independent business advisor, and I've been associated with you for a number of years. And basically what I do is learn about business and the requirements, discuss best practices, and provide product and information and answers to questions, and schedule the demos, and basically act as a go-to person to manage next steps. And in everything that I've been associated with you on, I've seen the same things over the years. You definitely get a business advantage driven company when you work with Apigen. And certainly the range of experience that you have is phenomenal, and helps again with that change management piece. So I apologize for being late to the show today, but I do want to reach out and just encourage everyone to let us know what specific things you're dealing with, and how we can best suit your needs.
Okay. Okay, Pradeep. Pratik, it's up to you now. You please take on. I think there are some questions. So, and after taking the questions, let's conclude and wind it off. Pratik, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody, Robin, Pradeep ji, Paul, Gaurav, and the audience has been really wonderful. I will take one more question before we close the day. If any of the questions still remain unanswered, I you are feel free to write us an email. We'll try to respond them as soon as possible. Okay. So I have a question which I have received in terms of third-party implementation. So I have been asked how does face security issue while using third-party or implementing ERP. So while the question is not 100% clear to me, but to answer your question as far as the third-party integration is considered, let me give an example of Facebook. So Facebook API is available across the globe easily on the internet, where you can integrate with Facebook ads. You can design your ad campaigns within Facebook. As soon as you receive a lead through Facebook, you can basically bring them to Odoo. Now, what happens is that a company like Facebook has created an API in a very secure manner. So it has followed the best practices, and it does not demand a lot of whatever data it is demanding, whatever actions it is performing, it is in a very secure manner. But a lot of third-party applications which generate or is generated by shady apps may not be that secure nature. As a consultant, it is your role to ensure that any integration that you do is done with all possible security protocols and the best available internet standard. Let me also tell you, for all the major companies or the major applications for which third-party integrations are easily available, would always have best practices. So that's all from me. We are going to wind up the session now. As I mentioned before, if any questions remain unanswered or you feel you have any more questions, feel free to write back to us and we'll respond to you as soon as possible. Again, I'd like to wish you in these tough times, your family is safe, and I hope things remain well in advance.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much,
much.
all,
We'll close.
all
Thank you,
panelists
everyone.
and all attendees. We appreciate the patience and time you spent for us. And I think entire session was knowledgeable, and we'll definitely be adding some or the other value to all of you. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Same
All right,
here.
thank
Goodbye.
you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, Paul. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel videos and you will be getting a lot. And yes, don't forget to comment upon these videos, because if you comment on these videos, this will really going to give us the motivation to upload more and more videos. Thank you so much. Stay tuned.